Am I the butthole for asking my neighbors to pay me for deforming my cheap IKEA folding chairs and borrowing them without my consent? They claim that the chairs were defective and couldn't support the weight of an adult. A while back I bought a bunch of cheap folding chairs from IKEA for my son's birthday party. If anyone is having an event, a barbecue, and needs to borrow them, I lend them out. It's no big deal, I just ask that they return them in a timely manner. I lent them out to my neighbor Mark, and he was supposed to return them, but then another one of our neighbors, Barb, borrowed them. I was not aware of this until Barb contacted me on FB that she had my chairs. I checked with Mark. I am like, why did you let Barb have my chairs? He told me that Barb said I said it's cool. I was annoyed, so I was like, just bring them back on Saturday after 3 p.m. I get the chairs back now. 4 of them are completely deformed. My husband tried to fix them, but even with trying to undo the bending, the aluminum part didn't go back to the original shape, and the plastic part has a big fold crease where it turned white. I checked with Barb about what happened with my chairs. She then said that when she sat on them, that some of the crappy ones bent, and said that those chairs are dangerous. I was like, we had these for years without any issues. Now for what it's worth, Barb and her husband are on the bigger side, and I guess these chairs aren't rated for them, or they sat on them weirdly. I was like, look, you didn't even ask me to borrow them, you lied to Mark. Barb is like, oh come on, you let everyone borrow them, it's no big deal, they are just cheap chairs. I was like, okay, for the ones you guys bent, give me $15 each. Barb is like, no, that's messed up, those chairs are super old now, plus I should have had chairs that can support full-bodied adults. I was like, they can handle normal people just fine. She got even more mad. I told her to send the money over. She didn't, but then begrudgingly sent the money over. Was I wrong here? Like, yes, I get these are crappy chairs, but you shouldn't break them in the first place. And if you break one, stop. For me, the money was nice to see back, but it's the principle. I am not friends with Barb and her husband like I am with Mike and his wife. Not the butthole. She lied to misappropriate your stuff, broke it, and acted snooty about it. YouTube link. Thank you for that funny clip. Also, original poster is not the butthole. Dog comes back, there wasn't enough glue left to fix the lamp. Maybe we should make more. Dog looks pointedly at horse. Reminds me of something from r/everything is terrible. Reddit link. She lied to misappropriate your stuff. That's theft. She's lucky that original poster only asked for reimbursement, instead of pressing charges with petty theft and destruction of private property. Not the butthole. I thought I was going crazy reading all the terms, tiptoeing around calling it theft, misappropriation, borrowing them without my consent. Reruns of L&O has made everyone an attorney. Barb needs to learn to stop lying. She owed you that money, and I wouldn't lend Mark anything else either. He was careless with your stuff. Not the butthole. Do you instantly think people lie to you? If someone I knew said they got permission, without a previous breach in trust, I would have handed them over. Not the butthole. If I borrow something, it goes straight back to the owner. The only way it goes to someone else is if I heard it directly from the owner's mouth. The only trust relevant to me at that point is the trust the owner put in me to respect their property. Exactly this. If it isn't yours, you don't have permission to do whatever you want with it or give/lend it to anyone else without the expressed permission of the owner. That's, like kindergarten stuff. This is how it should be. It really isn't hard to respect people, the generosity in their property, but it seems like society has become allergic to the idea. I don't instantly think people lie or act malicious, etc. However, lending other people's property or giving out other people's personal information like addresses, phone numbers, etc., is something I won't do unless I get express permission from the horse's mouth. Even if I know they probably won't mind, I don't want any sort of miscommunication or something negative to happen because I made the wrong assumption. It's different when they're borrowing something of yours. This situation was borrowing someone else's things without permission, lying about having permission from the original owner to do so, and then having the gall to try and claim no fault when said borrowed items were broken beyond repair. Stop defending this behavior. It's outright selfish and entitled to think you're owed something just because everyone else in the neighborhood has borrowed it before you. I get Mark loaning them out. He trusted Barb, and if the chairs go to many, then he probably thought she was honest. Exactly. He could have called original poster to check instead of just handing them over. Mark was lied to by Barb that she had permission from original poster, and because he's an honest person himself, he naively believed her. Original poster just needs to remind Mark not to lend anything on in future. Barb, on the other hand, needs to be outed in the neighborhood as a liar and a thief. And oh my god, you have to try to break those chairs. Definitely not the butthole. Seriously, if these are the same IKEA ones we have, they're very sturdy. They're actually the ones we use when my husband's large, like 400 plus pounds, comes over, and they hold up just fine. Edit, brother. His very large brother, smiley face. Your husband's large what? Misappropriate steal. Not the butthole. She borrowed them without asking you first. It doesn't matter whether you always let people borrow them or not. She should have asked first. She, or someone at her event, bent several chairs. If she had rented chairs from someplace, she absolutely would have had to pay for them, regardless of how old the chairs were, and it would have been more than $15/chair damaged. She is likely embarrassed that her weight bent the chairs and then, when called out on it, lashed out. She needs to get over herself. Edit, thank you for the awards. I usually sit on the deck/ground at events 1, because I prefer them, and 2, I've broken a chair once, it had already cracked, and I just sitting on it snapped it, and am still not over the fear of falling again. My dad is a big guy, 6 feet 6 inches and 260 pounds, and buys chairs that are rated for him. He once broke a chair of my aunt's by rocking back on it, and he went and offered to pay or fix it because that's what you do. Then moved to a stronger chair and didn't mess with it. My ex was a big guy too and sat in an old camping chair that had rotted enough in the fabric that it broke. He was so embarrassed and was grouchy for the rest of the day and barely spoke, even though it probably would have happened to anyone. Both fell over, but being gracious and laughing is the best way forward. Mostly it just hurt my poor butt. Exactly. My husband is 6 feet and 100 kilograms, and he knows perfectly well that he should not be sitting in cheap chairs that are not rated for him. My mom saw me looking at camp chairs one year and offered to buy us some for Christmas. I made sure to point out that weight ratings were important in this case, and she ended up getting some really good ones for everyone, and they have ended up as some of the best presents she has given us. I had a friend on the much heavier side who completely deformed one of our canvas chairs to the point where your butt touched the ground and your knees touched your chest when you'd sit in it, so we would keep it put away and only pull it out when she came over. She had no idea. One time she came over and laughed extremely loud, drew everyone's attention to the chair, and said, "Oh my god, what happened to my chair? It looks like some fat ogre crushed it to death." My boyfriend and I were so red in the face, hoping to God no one would say they hadn't seen it before. Oh, my, I'm so glad you were not drinking something when she said this. I had to close my eyes and look away to stop from laughing. It was bad laughing out loud. I've twice had one of those plastic garden chairs snap off at a leg and toss me to the ground. I'm overweight but not huge. They get brittle when they're old and have been out in all kinds of weather for years. It is embarrassing. Heck, I had that happen when I was a skinny teenager. I've been wary of them ever since. When I moved into the flat I'm in now, I broke the bed the first night. Literally fell through the bed because the slats popped out of their holdings. I was so freaking embarrassed when I asked my landlord for help to fix it. Poor dude bought me a new bed because of it, as it kept breaking. I still feel mega embarrassed by it, to be honest. Thankfully I wasn't hurt, at least. I would refuse to lend Mark anything and tell anyone who wants to borrow the chairs that Barb took them without permission and broke them. That's why nobody gets to use them now. This too. Mark lost his good neighbor card when he lent out crap without checking. I don't think it's that much on him. She lied to him and said it was okay. No, you never lend something that doesn't belong to you without the express permission of the owner directly. Mark was responsible for them. When you're responsible for an item your friend loaned you, and that item gets damaged or stolen, it is on you to make your friend whole. Mark should be bending over backwards with apologies. To be fair, good people who don't lie about stuff in order to get their own way tend to be trusting because that is their default. Mark, presumably, had no reason not to believe the lying disrespectful neighbors at that stage, but hopefully he does now. I don't know about that. Original poster said themselves they usually lend to anyone. With that logic, I don't think it would be weird for Mark to think they asked original poster at all. She is likely embarrassed that her weight bent the chairs and then, when called out on it, lashed out. She needs to get over herself. When Barb says the chairs were the issue, original poster says, I was like, they can handle normal people just fine. That's got to sting. And yet, not the butthole. Is that a hurtful thing of original poster to say? Yes. But this woman stole original poster's belongings and then broke them. When you steal people's belongings and break them, they don't have to be nice to you about it. Especially when she's caught and refusing to pay back honestly a pretty small amount she could likely afford fine. Yes, being polite and kind is good. But we can't expect people to be polite and kind 100% of the time, no matter how others act towards them. We're all just people with our own feelings. My guess is this was less about the money and more about Barb's pride. Barb wants to believe the chairs are old, defective, etc., and that's why they got bent. BQ's believing that these were bent. BQ, she is just so much more massively overweight than all the other neighbors and their guests at various events must feel really bad. And so she doesn't want to believe that. That said, she took them without asking, so she really needs to pay either way. Not the butthole. You can't borrow someone's stuff without their permission, break it, and expect them not to ask for money for replacements. Borrowing without permission is also called stealing. Stealing the chairs means it doesn't matter if they were defective or not, and she should be totally paying for replacements. Original poster was too kind, laughing out loud. Not the butthole. Yes. Theft already happens at the point when you take the thing, not when you decide whether you return it or not. Borrowing without permission is also called stealing. Laughing out loud, it's basically what a thieves say when they get caught. I was on Lebo rowing it. Sure you were, pal. Rolling eyes face. Not the butthole. The age and quality of the chairs seemed good enough to Barb and Mark until they broke your property. They owe you replacement value. Well, technically Mark didn't do anything. I don't know. I think if I was him, I still would have confirmed with original poster before giving away someone else's stuff. Definitely should have checked, but I don't think he was in the wrong per se. They're just chairs, and he probably assumed that because original poster lends them out anyway to anyone, that they said it was fine. Poor lapse in judgment, really. Yeah, he strikes me more than someone who made a mistake out of naivety. He might be an honest person who thought that other people would be just because he is. Not the butthole. She lied to someone to borrow your property without permission, then damaged said property. Being on the bigger side myself, I know better than to flounce my butt onto a cheap chair, and she should have known better as well. While what you said was a bit rude there, it was only after she had not only damaged your property but was low-key trying to blame you for the damage and wiggle out paying you for what she'd done. And Mark sucks too for lending them out regardless of what Barb said. Agree with everything except for blaming poor Mark. He was lain to by Barb and had no reason to think she would do that to him. Of course, it's easy to say he should have checked with original poster, but who would have in his shoes over some chairs? Who expects a neighbor is going to lie to them like that? Barb is 100% to blame for everything. I still think it falls under common courtesy to check with the owner before you lend out someone else's belongings, but agree to disagree. I do get what you're saying, but I can't imagine anyone would in reality if they were expressly told the lie that the person already asked, bearing in mind original poster is known for lending them out to people who until now have been polite and asked. You don't lend people stuff that is not yours. Not the butthole. If they don't like the quality of your chairs, they should buy their own. If they break your stuff, they should pay for the damage they caused. Not the butthole. She hustled her way into the chairs, didn't return them until you tracked her down, didn't offer to replace the broken ones. I'd let it go since I suspect the aggravation won't be worth the cash you might squeeze out of her. Go forward feeling cheerfully superior about your better manners. Not the butthole. She borrowed your stuff without asking and broke it. It's courtesy to replace things you break or ruin. However, a couple things, Mark is kind of butthole too. He should have given them back to you and not to Barb. Even if she said that you said it was cool, he should have at least confirmed it. You're a little bit in butthole for saying normal people can sit in these chairs. Fat people are also normal people. It's not a cool move what you are implying. Everyone sucks here. I was like they can handle normal people just fine. That is a crafty thing to say, and you yourself said they're old and cheap, but I suppose it is the principle. Not the butthole. First of all, it's not cool that they lied about you giving permission for them to borrow them. And then to modify them without your permission, too? What the actual hell? Not the butthole. I'm a bigger guy and I know better than to sit in some of those. I've bent/broke my share and always made it right with repair or paid for them. This woman was just rude about it and knew she was wrong. Everyone sucks here. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.